and gentlemen. Welcome back to yet another, and it's our 28th episode of
Woohoo!
our nearly weekly hangout. I keep wanting to say podcast, but it's not really the podcast because that's the other one that they do. Um,
Or did.
get on those guys, get them together, Bill. We're craving another podcast, man.
I hope so. I hope so. Hello, everybody. This is going to be a good one. Good hangout today. I can feel it.
And along with Bill and I, we have Petra
Hello. I'm
and
in the
our
closet.
guest, Rich Duras.
Hello.
AKA Darth Beavis.
Yeah, mod, yeah.
Rich, give us a history on why you came up with that as your screen name.
It goes back to 1997. It's pretty clear. Darth Beavis and Darth Vader and Beavis and Butthead kind of combined it. I think it kind of describes my trollish personality, so I kind of ran with it.
Good one. You know what? I thought today there's so many things that we can talk about of our experiences with you, but let's just get your story and how you got involved with custom PC building and modding.
Well, see, way back in the day, in the early 90s, I was a deputy sheriff, and back then we first got word processors in, or PCs as word processors, and no one knew what to do when things went haywire. I just kind of had the knack, kind of like when I was a kid, I took things apart and put them back together to do the same type of thing with computers, became the go-to guy. And then people started asking me to, upgrade their like 386 and 486. And as I went through, I found out I wanted to have better performance to play games and such. And so I had to, do the origami, with the IDE cables and get better airflow so you can get better performance in your games. It kind of, came from there and just, springboarded. Went back to school, became a software engineer, and loved the hardware as well.
My first PC was a 95 Dell Pentium 1, and I think that was a 486. I believe that was a 486. But you said Cablegami, and that reminds me of that famous, or at least for us, that article that was done about Voodoo PC and how they did their cables, and they called it Cablegami.
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, people often ask me, well, what are your huge influences in PC modding? And the Roll Suits Voodoo PC still to this day is one of the pinnacles I hold up. I mean, if you remember how beautiful their cases were, like you said, the cable management, but even gorgeous details like chroming the interior of the case and a gorgeous paint on the outside and windows. I mean, most people didn't have windowed cases back then, for goodness sake. So I still hold them as one of the pinnacles. And besides, you, one of the people who kind of motivated me to get into aesthetics besides the performance part.
Here's the thing: when Voodoo PC is brought up, and we cannot deny the landmark that he made for this hobby in this industry. Here's my question, Rich, and this is what I always ask people when they bring up, oh, Raoul and Voodoo PC and all this stuff he did. How come we never see any of those PCs, those Voodoo PCs, surface up anywhere, like on eBay or anywhere, or even in community forums?
I have no idea. I have no idea what their distribution actually was and how many they got out. I just know from the reviews that I saw.
Yeah.
When I did decide to actually buy, OEM PC, high-end PC, I went for Alienware versus Voodoo.
Mm-hmm.
I had the first Alienware ALX off the line, which is my first foray into water cooling.
Oh, yeah.
I hated the coolants, water cooling, and so I started doing DIY total Frankenstein upgrades, with Danger Den 6800 GTX blocks and, mixing and matching different size tubing. I mean, it's total ghetto, but that was my break into water cooling and my big relationship with Danger Den.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and we should touch on that, too, today. Well, there's so many things that we've witnessed together well over a decade of modding and building custom PCs, because like yourself, and also Petra too, we've watched the industry changes because we were diehard hobbyists, and so we were always watching the latest market trends and all that stuff, and also aspiring to get sponsored by different companies. And but what I want to share is how I first met you online, my first experience meeting you online. And unfortunately, I tried to find the thread. It was on Modders Inc., and I think it's been deleted or it didn't get transferred over when he updated his site. I don't know. But anyways, I think the year was, I want to say it was 2005 or 2006. And there was a mod contest that those guys were judging, and it was either at QuakeCon or PDX LAN. And the individual that won was a younger kid, and he had a computer that was super clean. I remember it was like purple. I think it was like a dark blue or purple color. And I remember you were in a thread questioning, this was after that he was announced as winner, questioning why the judges had chosen his build, and you would not let it die. And I don't remember the exact specific details about it. I just know that you were like pushing these guys to explain, how did he win? And I thought, this guy's got freaking balls, man, to go and like question these guys, and you wouldn't let it drop. And that was my first experience. And I might even dropped into that thread, and I don't know what I said, but yeah, that was my first experience meeting Darth Beavis online.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember that particular situation. Doesn't surprise me, to be honest. I mean, I've been on the other side. I've judged many mod contests over the years, you know, in person and online. And so I understand it's a thankless job, but there again, you should also, you know, be able to articulate and explain what it was about a particular mod that drove it over the rest. And nothing more than a learning experience. But I can't say what my motivation was. I could have just been being a jerk. I don't know. All things are possible.
I think, you know, now that I think, and I may be wrong, but I think the build that you had in that contest was the one that looks like it was a Cooler Master that looks as the Stormtrooper paint scheme on it, if I'm not mistaken. I know that you had that build at that time because I checked out your site, and that was one of your most recent builds.
Oh, there's a PDX LAN, there's a PDX LAN mod contest. It was being judged by CPU Magazine. Okay. And the person, I wasn't competing with that. I was competing with the Buffy the Vampire Slayer theme build. Mm-hmm. The not mod's case, it had a big axe on the top, airbrushed with Buffy graphics. And the person who won, this is kind of funny, was Dennis, one of the owners of Danger Den. And they were also a sponsor of the event. And I was rather teed off that, you know, a sponsor would win the mod contest, which later down the road, I kind of realized the error of my ways, and he completely hand-built that case himself. You know, glued it, didn't use any of the Danger Den techniques that they normally use. Used their laser cutter, but he did the designing as well. And so that goes back to now what we all face, those of us who use like CNC tools. Do you deserve credit to win a mod contest if you use tools to do your project? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like a precursor to the argument that we have now. Mm-hmm. And I was totally out of line about that. We made up afterwards, and I apologize. But yeah, that was not one of my prettier moments. But yeah, I wouldn't let it go, and it was not a good situation.
That experience that I had in meeting you, I think is shared by a lot of the people that first discovered you, and it could have happened on Facebook, it could have happened on another community forum, that if you felt compelled to say, or you had a problem with something, you would voice it. And some people will have a problem with that, but you never had a fear. I think that's what I'm trying to say is you never had a fear in just speaking your mind. It's almost as if you had nothing to lose and you didn't care, you know. And part of me, I admire that because it's that type of tenacity that can get things done and that they can make new connections, but also it can alienate some people or upset some people that feel like, well, that's not the proper channel to go through when you're reaching out to like a manufacturer or whatever. And so, yeah, I think that's where you're really unique, you know, in being who you are and why you have the reputation you do.
Yeah, and, you know, I've burned a lot of bridges in my day. I mean, to be blunt with you, I mean, one of my big goals was to work in-house for NVIDIA. And I'm 99.9% sure that, you know, my trolling and, you know, the way I acted on Facebook is probably one of the reasons why that never panned out. So, I mean, there's some things like that where, I paid a price, but, you just live and learn, and as I've, gotten older, I got really sick this last year, I kind of, stepped back and kind of reassessed, I'm trying to be a better part of the community versus being, such a troll. Not that, not that I don't, have opinions, but it's just how you go about, voicing those opinions. And, you can use a carrot or you can use a stick. Sometimes you might get the same result, but probably 9 times out of 10, you'll get further, with the carrot. And plus, you'll build community versus isolating. I mean, there are still times if I see, like one of my pet peeves is people stealing other people's work, like passing photos off as their own, or, not giving due credit. And things like that, I'll still try to hone in on, but, I'm trying to step back and be a little more laid back.
Yeah.
And positive.
Well, Gary Pyburn just said best troll ever. He. So you got troll fans. You got your fan club, and it's undeniable that you have made a major impact in this hobby over the last 10 years. And anybody that's going to argue me about that, enter in Darth Beavis as one word in Google Images. The proof is right there. And when we had Brian Bodeker Carter on, same thing with him too. And that goes back to my point of if you want to really be somebody in this hobby, you just can't stay within the confines of Facebook to share your work. You've got to get out in the community, and you've got to get your stuff on public forums, and hopefully get your stuff published on the tech blogs or the magazine publication blog sites. And Rich, there's a wealth of stuff that you've done has been documented out there, both online and in publications.
No, definitely. I've heard you mention in other Hangouts that things have changed. We used to have more forums. People used to post work logs a lot more than they do now. Even the social media is kind of pulled from that. It's kind of just like another venue. But then things have also changed in the opposite direction, where if you look at the sheer number of case mod contests, it's almost in overload right now.
Good one.
And, I think it's almost, diluting, it's good, but it's bad because it's diluting, and people are having to choose, what am I going to do? And, it makes it quite a challenge. I mean, and for me, I'm too old to do all this case mod contest stuff, so I'm glad there's younger people that are way more talented than I to be able to do it. But, so it gives more publicity, and the companies are, putting more money into it, which is nice that they're supporting us. Everybody and their brother's sponsored now, which, back in the day, you and I both know that, we're like some of the early birds that, did this, I mean, I was one of the first, or main people modded by NVIDIA back in the day, and, you as well. Things have totally changed, but that's another one of the things where I try to look at what can I contribute, because I can't mod like you. I can't mod like, these up and coming people. So there's a few things I can do well. And one of the things is educate people about sponsorship and how to, be more productive than I've been as far as being part of the community, give back. And the other thing that I really like to preach is that it's great to be able to be a hardcore modder, but being actually part of the team and doing collaborative work is a really good and productive thing as well.
Yeah, it teaches you a whole new dynamic. And when it comes to like orchestrating everybody's talents, so they're showcased and they feel they can walk away that they contributed something, that is a whole different animal versus just doing it on your own. So yeah, that's good that you bring up that point, that try to collaborate with other people on projects. It's a lot of fun.
And when we go through and we're kind of designing them, there's people often think you can just go through and like one person just asked in the comments, what are you going to do to prepare before you start cutting metal? And there's a lot of these how-tos and processes that we go through that's not necessarily transparent unless, of course, you go look for one of our old style work logs. So, teaching people, some of the processes that we use as far as, the design stage. You always want to have a really good, solid design before you ever cut metal or before you fire up your laser cutter or, whatever type of manufacturing process that you're using. And then how are you going to communicate the work that you're doing as well? So do a work log. One of my weak points is taking good pictures, and that is an art form in and of itself.
Yes, it is. I'm still learning that. I got a long way to go.
Video now is critical. And how are you going to publish?
Oh, yeah.
And mentioned to you before, monetizing your YouTube channel, being able to get some ROI on that and having it pay for itself. So there's a lot of things that we can still educate people on besides the core skills, painting, metal cutting, sleeving, well, what have you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's one thing I've always respected too about you, is that you've tried to just carry the torch in educating people and just trying to reach a wider audience for this hobby. One thing I've said in the past, well, I've said it several times, is the problem with the change in social media is now we don't have the tech blogs and magazines highlighting our builds in articles and stuff like we used to. So it's like the vehicle to get exposure for this hobby has really shrunk a lot since we've been in it. So people like you need to keep telling people that have never heard about it. And everyone here in the chat window, you all know how important it is to keep this hobby alive so that our kids are into it and their kids are into it. Just keep preaching the gospel of modding.
There you go. Go if you're looking at the chat window. I want you to say it. I'm not going to say it, but I just typed.
Yeah. I'm going to say it. Make modding great again.
Actually, modding's always been great, but still.
We've got Alex in here. Let's hear Alex's story and how he first met you.
Oh, no.
Well, Richard, you say, oh, no, but if we're talking like first online interaction, I honestly don't remember it all. First online interaction would have been in Extreme Systems, probably 2005 or 6. Does that sound about right to you?
About that time frame.
Yeah.
Before I got banned many times.
Yeah, before he got banned 20 or 30 times or whatever it was. I did sometimes wonder whether you held the record for most times banned and then unbanned. I'm not sure. I'd have to ask Charles.
Yeah.
And I think the first time we actually met in person was at the Extreme Systems CES party, 2008.
Yeah, that was one to remember.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, I don't exactly have the dramatic, you making an ass of yourself story that Bill has. So, my first interactions with you, you were just posting neat stuff in Extreme Systems. You're promoting your mods, and you were doing what, well, really, we kind of, as Bill was mentioning, need to train people to do again. Because Bill's right. Social media, especially platforms like Facebook and, well, Twitter, actually pretty much all of them, are very much a decentralizing force in computer modding, and they're not very well indexed by search engines. So if you go and look for like a particular mod of a particular case, you aren't going to get a bunch of Facebook results for the most part. You'll get forum results first. And if we need to drive people into doing more of that and kind of bring people back into the centralized posting of work logs and stuff in essentially like an archival, indexable thing, community forums.
Yeah, well, one of the downsides to forums in their heyday before social media took over was we had a few places where you put work logs up, and then it became in maybe like 10 places. And
there's that.
Growing, which is... the same thing happened on Facebook before I quit. One of the things I was nailing people on was, okay, you're doing these updates and you're in maybe like 10 different modding groups, and you'll do one update to all modding groups at the same time. And if you're subscribing to all, your entire wall is filled with posts.
Well, at least with the community forums, you didn't end up with viewer overload. What you ended up with was way too much work on the part of the person doing the mod in the work log. Because you're right. If you posted a work log in like 10 different forums, it took a lot of time to go around and just update every single one of them, see what people were asking you, update it in all the different forums. So you're right. That was a lot of work for the creator, but it didn't create the kind of spamming effect that the viewers get with social media now.
Yeah, no. What we need is maybe one or two sites where modders post their work logs, and that's, I think, all you really need,
Mm-hmm.
as long as they have a good enough subscriber base. And then these different social media avenues can, point to that. So we can make an update, say, hey, go here and check out my work log instead of migrating it all to social media. So you have the indexing that you mentioned, but you also have the drastically increased exposure, the exponential exposure that social media brings in. So being able to have both things at the same time would be awesome.
And not having to pay to post your work log would be wonderful too.
Oh yeah.
Nope. Correction.
OC
Nobody does that anymore. OC dropped that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I just, for some reason, felt compelled to throw that out.
Yeah, that was one of the lamest things ever. So.
There was a time, and then they've changed that. So, anyways, on the topic of exposure, and Drew's going to bring this up. He has a great. It could be our main topic since you're here with us, Rich.
Yeah, we were discussing it earlier today, and actually the topic of how do you value your work, and how do you teach others that are doing the same kind of work how to value that work when it comes to somebody coming to you and saying, hey, I need you to do this work for me, but I can only give you exposure, versus, and here's a blank paycheck, tell me what you want to have filled into it. How do you approach educating your fellow creators to make sure that they're not going to get screwed or any of that? The example I gave to Bill was, I've got a friend who does a lot of little neat crochet things, warm hats for babies, things like that. And she has an item that I can't remember what it was that normally she'll sell for $15. And somebody came to her and said, you just look like you have so much fun doing this that, it almost feels like I'm paying you to enjoy your time. So the most I can give you is $5. And fortunately for her, she'd been listening to me about, what is your hourly rate that you want to set? How much of your cost is actually the materials? And so she was able to actually pull out her little notebook, flip it open and say, on this particular thing, it cost me so much per material, so much time that I put, devoted to the actual making of it. By the time she was done educating this person, they ended up giving her a $10 tip on top of the $15. And unfortunately, I've seen far too many people who don't know how to explain to the people that come to you and say, but I can give you exposure, as if it's some sort of magical thing, versus that crushing cold that'll knock you out before you even have a chance to think.
Yeah.
Yes, so, my general rule of thumb that I advise people, it's hard to value a case mod or a build, but usually the complexity increases, your time increases with the increase in the cost of the components you're using in there. So I say that you take the cost of the components, and then you at least double versus what the cost of the components are. So say if you're like it's $1,000 in hardware, then you charge $1,000 labor, because if they're going to have you do water cooling and do more things, then your time is going to increase at the same level with the amount of hardware that you're going into it. So that's just kind of like a rough estimate. But as far as with the exposure, that's kind of a hard thing. So back in the day, we used to be more willing to do it for exposure, because we needed it. So for me to say, from my perspective, what exposure is worth to me versus what it's worth to you is, it's apples and oranges. So I would tell someone, if it's something that you really want to do, maybe they're offering something that you think would be really enjoyable, then you kind of have to make a judgment call. Because if it's something you're going to get more out of it, and it's worth your time, as long as you're not putting anything into it as far as buying hardware, blah, blah, blah. If it's just your labor, you have to make a judgment call. But if you're going to value it, then you need to really make it worth your time. Because, if you look at I run a business as well, vet clinic. And, we don't give our services away for free. And people often think, well, you're taking care of my pet. If you love animals, you're going to treat them for free. No, you have to come in and look at what our costs are. You have cost of goods sold or inventory. I have to pay my veterinarian as well. I have to pay, their insurance, blah, 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 blah. And so, like you said, if you go through and if you can itemize what your cost of goods sold are, and explain you also have to pay for your time because there's an opportunity cost, that, other things you could be doing. You could be taking, like you said, with Alex, going and taking kids shooting. You could be doing this, doing that, instead of working on this build. And yes, you enjoy it, but if you're doing something for yourself, that's where you get the enjoyment out of it. If you're doing something for somebody else, that is work. And if you try to tie it into what that person does, do they expect to do something for free for you?
Rich, would you feel that there's been instances where manufacturers have taken advantage of modders and underpaying them? I feel that over the years, there's been times when, whether it's Computex, CES, or some other type of event, that they have their flat amount that they'll offer, and then they'll use exposure as a bartering, because let's say it's like, well, our budget's only $1,000. Well, you and I know that some of these builds can be 2,000-3,000, much double, triple that easily, and especially if you're going to get like a professional custom painter involved, or if you have to have some other expertise, craftsmanship involved. I feel that some manufacturers have not paid what we're worth, and they use exposure as this bartering tool that has no guarantees about anything. They say your build's going to be at a trade show and we'll have your business cards there. Well, I can tell you, having been at trade shows, that most people aren't there shopping around for a PC modder to do work for them. No, and to be perfectly blunt, and this is where I've harped on you a bit. The return on investment from having a mod at a trade show is not having your mod on the show, not the publicity from it. It's from you being there in person, networking with other people. That's true. Yes.
That is where the return on investment. And so if they're going to pay for you to fly out there and do all this, and you're going to have an experience out of it, I can see, maybe you dropping your price a bit. But then also I've been working with these companies on having them have a daily pay for when you travel. So you're actually getting paid while you're there.
I like
so that can all be part of the package. But you're definitely 110% right. No one should do a build and have it shipped out there and have their labor be exposure, paid in exposure. That is silly.
Yeah.
And it's happening way too often, and it's more of a problem now than back when you and I were doing this back in the day, because there's so many more modders now.
Yeah.
I mean, so many people, because you can buy so many things off the shelf and do a gorgeous build, not have to sleeve your own cables or, really do any real modding, but just do a really clean, nice aesthetic build. It'll be shown on the trade floor, and there's like way more people doing that now. Yeah. So the barrier to access is way lower than it used to be.
That's right.
And when you have that lower barrier of access, you have less experienced people who are trying to come up and be like the next Bill, they're going to be more willing to do it. So I think it's almost like a fruitless endeavor to try to really educate the masses, because there'll be somebody else always popping in ready to do it. But at least if people at the higher levels all stand, the Lee Harringtons, the Ron Christensen, the Bob and Rod, your Mozu guys, if they all stand and have the same standard, then at least at that level, we'll have some standard to go by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. There's so many people vying for free hardware opportunities, and like you were saying earlier, it kind of it neutralizes the pool, I guess, or not neutralizes, but just kind of makes it not so interesting anymore, But I wanted to ask another question, a personal question I have for you, and I have to admit I haven't been watching the chat. Excellent chat, everybody, today. I would try to catch some questions in here, go back and read because it's really busy. Rich, when the whole thing went down at Computex with Thermaltake unveiling the Case Labs inspired towers, and you were there at that time,
yes,
under Kenny Lynn's invitation.
Yes.
What I would love if you can share it, because I know that you were watching social media, the reaction when that went down. Did you talk to Kenny at all? And could you share what that?
I didn't talk to Kenny at all. Mostly I talked to Shannon because I was working with Shannon, and Shannon was the that was his project. But this is kind of interesting because it kind of goes beyond that. It's something you had no idea about. And so there's that whole situation with Case Labs and that dynamic and that drama, and watching all that unfold, and the emotions that went with it. But here's something that you probably didn't realize. So do you remember the other thing that they showed at that event that they unveiled? It was huge. A wall mount PC, a huge wall mount PC that was all hard tubed and everything. That they had it on the wall. It's not the P5 case, but they had that.
Yeah. You did that one, right?
Yeah, they had a big wall mount.
Yeah.
Big wall mount PC. Okay, so if you go and look, do Google search for Darth Beavis and I think NVIDIA wall PC. I worked with Primo Chill and my partner Travis Jank, and we did a kick-ass build for NVIDIA for Maker Faire a few years ago. It was a big wall PC, hard tubed, everything, gorgeous setup. And so basically, they took that concept and recreated it, never told me, never consulted with me, and they unboxed it to put it up while I was standing there with my jaw hitting the floor thinking, oh God, please don't let Brian from Primo Chill see this, because we were big partners on this. Because he would think that I was worried that he would think that I went with them and helped design this based on our project without telling him or anything like that.
NVIDIA that unveiled that, or Thermaltake?
Thermaltake did. No, it had nothing to do with NVIDIA. I did the wall mount PC with NVIDIA that this replicated. And I wasn't the first person that did this. I mean, I try to give people credit. There's a guy named Recoil P on, I think, the overclock.net, who did a gorgeous wall PC, but it was flexible tubing. It was a blue theme. Another guy did a red theme one. And so I just kind of springboarded on that. I even, like, on the NVIDIA plaque, I had his name saying this is where I got the inspiration from. So I try to, not be a dickhead and steal people's ideas. I want to, give back and then springboard if you springboard. But so when that happened, I was just like, oh God, just I don't know. It's kind of an odd situation, because seeing what happened with Case Labs, and I love the Case Labs guys. They're awesome. A small business, you want to, root for them. They come to PDX land. They've supported me in the past. Amazing work ethic, great product, and you just, hate to see what happened with them. So yeah, it was a mess. I didn't talk to Kenny about it personally though.
You did or didn't?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
The only thing I taught Kenny how to rigid tube bend on stage, and that was about it.
Right. Yeah. And see, the thing is, and some of my friends are annoyed when I bring up this topic. They're like, Bill, it's over. The thing is, I'm with the Case Labs guys because I have a business where we make stuff here. I'm U.S. made in the USA, and I will keep bringing this up. But here's the big thing that's brought up that I would ask Kenny Lynn is, like, you did the Thermaltake Level 10. You collaborated with BMW, and it was a huge success. The media it brought you was like free publicity all over the internet. What the hell happened that you never considered that again, a collaboration with somebody to create something new? That would be my big question to him is, Yeah,
but with the Level 10, it was amazing. And so, I don't know. Hey, I need to grab something real quick. Someone asked something in chat. I want to put something on camera real quick.
Oh, okay.
Right around corner.
All right. So Joe asks, so Rich, is Vanilla Ice's CD still in the optical drive of the wall PC? For those of you that don't know, Rich works with Vanilla Ice on his reality show where they go and they remodel homes for people and get some more details on that. I don't watch it personally. Well, I don't even know what is the name of the show.
Vanilla Ice Project.
Oh, okay. Are you doing a new season? Can we look forward to a new season coming out? Everybody.
Yeah, we're planning season 7 right now. In fact, the case that I have here, I'll tilt the camera around. This is the Inwood H Tower. Will be on the show next season.
Oh, you got one. And what did they make, Rich? Like 1,500 of those only, or something?
Yeah, it was a limited edition. I don't remember what the run was. Very hard to find though.
Okay, let's get a little insider of working with a celebrity on a reality show. What is the greatest thing you enjoy about it, and what's the worst thing you hate about it?
Oh, I think the greatest thing is obviously, I mean, an entire new audience. I mean, I think it's around maybe 9 million viewers. So my goal has always been to educate the public and let them know about our hobby, maybe get more people involved. So that I hate to use the term exposure because it's so trite, and we've been talking about it in a negative aspect. So that's, I think, one of the big positive things. Plus, it's kind of a cool thing to do, a fun thing to hang out in Florida for a few months out of the year and do that. The downside is when things go bad, they go really bad.
Oh.
And you can always do reshoots and stuff like that, but there's so many eyes on you, and so to give you an example. This didn't happen until after the show, but I don't know if people remember the wall mount PC that we did was filled with mineral oil. And so we had two PCs, I think there was 780 Ti systems, head-to-head gaming, sitting in an aquarium mounted on the wall with mineral oil in there. And I don't want to go into too much detail about why this happened, but after the show, the system leaked mineral oil on the floor. And someone actually buys the house, and so the system that's in there goes to the next buyer. And so this was, a total nightmare to deal with. And I had to fly out and replace the system with a new system later on. No mineral oil in it, but yeah, the risk of failure and the consequences of failure can really be magnified. Mm-hmm. Versus if you're just doing like a one-off project, like maybe a case mod for Cooler Master.
Yeah, there's a lot more to lose, obviously.
Yeah. Well, unless it's a build, and then it'll go from one show to another show to another show, and they'll still show up 5 years later, albeit with no hardware in it, but still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that brings up. Have you in the builds that you've done that you've shipped to these different shows or events? What was that one that got damaged? It got damaged by somebody. And
so and I heard you talking about this on one of the other hangouts about how to ship, and the origin PC guys really taught me a lot in this regard. So I copied, as far as using wood crates and everything to ship it. I've been using Instapack for years to do the insides. I worked with a large company I won't say to come up with a good way for testing their hardline tubing systems when it's shipped to make sure it comes out okay. So even with all of that, I'll have two stories I'll tell you. So one, I sent a system to my sister years ago, an AMD-based system actually, which is kind of surprising now it build. But the heatsink came off and it pulled the CPU out because the tin was so strong. Used, I think, can't remember what it was, ceramic, Arctic silver ceramic. So it's the white stuff, almost like glue. And that thing bounced around in the case, and the pins on the CPU. It was just hilarious. So I gave it later, and I gave that one to him just to see the look on his face. And said, "You got to straighten a couple pins out." So that was one. The other one was from Computex. We were just talking about it, the Thermaltake Level 10. That one came back just trashed, and it was in a wooden crate. And they still managed to trash that puppy. And so I still have it in my garage. I plan on just stripping it out and then doing some kind of rebuild with it someday. Mm-hmm. Maybe when I'm like, in a senior citizen home. I'm gonna do a mod. I'm gonna combine that with the Case Labs case.
Okay.
The Thermal Labs
mod, yeah. That would get a lot of attention. Very troll-like.
Well, I should mention, my son had his first CPU magazine mod of the month last January, really? And I helped him inspect the build out, and he used what was an Inwin S-frame, but it was sitting on top of a Case Labs pedestal, but he used Thermaltake ring fans to make sure that everything was was combined in there. So it was pretty funny.
Bill, come on, Thermal Labs, try harder. Case take.
I don't know. I like Thermal Labs, dude. Actually, wasn't it was Thermal Chill was the radiator company of yore. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
with the 70mm fan spacing.
That's right. They changed that. Yeah.
Yeah, Real Red Raider loved it.
Oh
Red
God,
Raider.
Joel.
Yeah, there was for those of you who aren't familiar, going back here, and Alex witnessed part of it, and I was just an onlooker. This whole thing that went down with RR Tech forms that was under Sidewinder Computers, and then there was Extreme Systems. Is it .org?
Yeah.
.org. Yeah. There was this form versus form thing going on of who was the better form.
Well,
Yeah. Well,
that's
Clue us in.
really, really nicely, Bill.
there's a nice backstory to this. I don't know if you heard this, guys, about the lawsuit.
Is he not? Are you not supposed to say anything? Or
Well, Richard was dropped from it, so
Yeah, a few times. So yeah, so there's a lawsuit that came out of it. On Extreme Systems, myself and a few other people commented about the tie between Sidewinders and Real Red Raider Tech, and we were sued, and that lasted for I think probably 3 or 4 years. 4 years.
Last I checked with Charles, who's the guy who owns Extreme Systems, it has not yet been resolved.
Yeah,
And that was as of January.
Yeah, it's been going on and on. So.
Yeah.
what do you mean it's going on and on? I mean, it's for the court system to start the case, or what?
They keep refiling.
Because they're trying to refile it away, is what they're trying to get away.
Yeah, it's a gift that keeps on giving. It's insane, I mean, the funny thing is, I've been banned from Extreme Systems many, many times since then. So I don't know who I'm friends with anymore.
Well, if you go there, I think it's just a news bot, pretty much, or somebody just posting the daily news thing. There's I've dropped in there over the on and off, and there's no activity going on.
In the last few years, the activity on Extreme Systems has mostly disappeared. There are still a few users that post every now and then, but it really isn't what it was, and most of the traffic went away after there was a big server problem a few years ago where the forum was actually down for probably about 4 months, 5 months, something like that. Far too long, and a lot of the users just never came back, which is really sad because I mean, as far as a place to go for water cooling information and stuff like that, Extreme Systems was it. It was incredibly active.
Yeah.
But
Best
it
in the
isn't the case
world.
anymore. Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, everyone. In fact, what was cool about Extreme Systems before any other forum did this is they invited manufacturers, CEOs of companies to come in the forums and share developments of new products for feedback. That was awesome.
And the whole thing with Joel and Red Raider Tech. Joel was a member of Extreme Systems. There was, let's say, a disagreement between himself and the administrators of Extreme Systems, and so Joel went off and created his own forum, and it was internet drama du jour, and there was a little mini forum war and people posting inappropriate things and mass bannings, and it was
entertaining. It was good entertainment.
There's that.
And the thing is that this is what was unique about it is that Sidewinder Computer, who was one of very few companies offering DIY liquid cooling components out there, decent stuff, that was RR Tech, the forum that Joel started, was their support forum for their products as well. So there's also this politics of this business being involved with the drama too. And I'm guessing that's where some of the issues that the guy that owned the business, Gary, had with Extreme Systems. All right, if you can't get into it, we won't get into it.
Yeah, that's the funny thing we were talking about earlier, that we've all been around for a long time, and there's so much drama. You can make a soap opera out of this.
Yeah, you could.
Oh man, there's so many. That's what I was thinking. As I was thinking about doing this hangout today, is that there was so many little things that happened over the last decade that I've seen Rich make a comment about or participate in or be involved with. I thought, oh, wow. And just some of this stuff, I mean, because you don't want to hurt feelings of anybody. I can't necessarily bring it up. Sorry.
It just turns into an inside joke between everyone who was there.
Yeah.
But needless to say, there's a lot of drama in this industry.
Far more than there really should be.
Yeah.
And we're talking about cooling computers.
Yeah, but you know what, guys? Here's the thing, and I've told this to Eel before too. When we talk about the drama and how it gets frustrating, model railroad guys, radio control guys, every hobby with passionate enthusiasts has its own drama and politics. The two homeless guys under the bridge, they have politics among themselves. So you can't escape it.
When I complain about the drama in this industry or I comment on it, I'm usually not talking about the drama that's created by the end users or the community. I'm talking about the shit that goes on between stores and between manufacturers in this industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm complaining about, and that's the unprofessional behavior within the industry that I take issue with. Users can do whatever they want to do. That's fine. That's what they do. That's okay.
So I see that we have we have Dasmode in the comments. So we have to ask him if he still has the Admiral Radiator.
You're stirring it up, man. He's got a spoon. He's stirring it up. Oh, the story.
Mark Frigger from Frozen CPU wants it back.
And I know how much was spent on the investment, the R&D development of that too. I've heard the story on that. Yeah. Do you want to, Rich? Since you brought up, you want to share the details of what went down with that?
Which part?
The Admiral. Yeah. Maybe not. Maybe we better wait for Daz to say something to say it's okay. He's on a 90-second delay. Let's see what his response is. Yeah, man, there's just so many great comments in here today. A lot of people remember the whole EK water blocks thing and the plating issue that went down while RR Tech Forums and Extreme Systems was going on.
Oh yeah, that resulted in some really fun talks with Eddie and his people.
Did you guys know that the report that the examination is all online? Have you ever looked at it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you believe it?
No.
Okay.
And I will stop that right there. Yeah, that went on for a while. There were some disagreements. There were threats of DMCA takedowns on EK's website. And, things are okay now.
Okay. Metal Jeff in the comments says, my first interaction with Richard was when I posted a case mod, and he said, nice pics. Now, who really did that work? Jeez.
Yeah. No comment.
Right.
No comment back then.
Rich, what was your worst experience of modding? Was there one thing that just you just was like really embarrassing, or just like the worst? That just like really.
Yeah, I have one off the top of my head. And this goes back to RR Tech. So back in the days, I did I don't know what the year was, around 2008. Yeah, because I brought the build to Envision 2008. I did a build called Daywalker. It was 5 Mountain Mod Ascension cases built in the shape of a cross, which was a bad idea.
Oh, I remember that one.
Yeah, airbrushed with skulls and stuff. I had replicas of Blade's weapons all built into it. I think it was like 3-in-1 system. I had to write up on Engadget because I had like 50 some odd fans in there. So I was being interviewed at Envision. I can't remember who was interviewing me, but I forgot to give a shout out to Mountain Mods. And RR Tech saw that, and he was a big fan of Mountain Mods, and so he let the owner know about that. And I got so much crap, and I almost quit modding right then and there because I may be a troll and stuff, but when it comes to sponsors and trying to do the right thing, I'm pretty much straight up guy. And it was just a straight up slip mistake that I made.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I've always One thing I've always wondered about that build, how much did it weigh?
It took several people to move it.
Hey, can we pull that up online? I'm sure it's got to exist. What was it called? Daywalker?
Yeah, Daywalker.
Okay. But yeah, keep chatting. I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, it had, I don't remember how many radiators in there. It was absurd.
I remember that cross though. Oh yeah. Holy moly, man. How did you get that thing around?
Yeah, well, it took several people to move it. I had to load that, my autopsy build, which is another 6-foot tall build, and another one into a U-Haul trailer and drove it from Oregon down to California. It was a nightmare.
Look at that.
And so I only showed it that one time. After that, I gave the cases back to Mountain Mods, and I don't know what they did with it. I just wanted nothing else to do with it. And like I said, I almost quit modding right then and there. It felt so bad.
Really? So you sent those back to him after they were modified?
Yeah, and no, I normally wouldn't do that, but he was just so pissed about it, and I said, "I'm sorry you didn't get the exposure that you wanted by me mentioning your name. So here, just take them back." And I think he gave it to some veterans group or something like that.
Veterans? As like to make a memorial or something, or?
I think he did. Went to a VA or some kind of. Veteran.
Oh, okay, okay.
He did build out for them to game on, so I think something positive came out of it.
Okay.
But it was, yeah, I kind of learned from that, and I was, mindful about, giving everyone due credit.
Dude, and you were sporting a mustache before hipsters made it cool again.
Yeah, I look like the bacon eggs guys from Park and Rec.
Yes, you do. Yeah, you could totally do him in a contest. So yeah. True. What's funny is, or coincidental, is we're going to have Ben Rising from Mountain Mods on the Hangout sometime. I talked to him.
Yeah, so Ben's a nice guy, so he'll probably laugh about it now, but it was a situation back then. Yeah. And you'll have to ask, so this is one of the things I brought up as devil's advocate when the whole Case Labs thermal take thing came out. I said, well, Case Labs took inspiration from Mountain Mods on their case. So, if you've been around it long enough, you always find out there's very few original ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. And I think the thing to me, when that happened, it was a matter of it was the right timing for an implosion to happen, because Case Labs was gaining so much momentum in the community and respect that the timing was just really bad. And that's why so many people just emotionally still now, it still bugs me in a way.
Well, and I think Thermaltake also learned that, one of the things I did mention to them is one of the things you should have learned that Cooler Master did well is to use focus groups. And they made the huge mistake of putting a non-release product on the floor at a huge trade show, revealing it when it's not even in its finished state, before having people give feedback on it, which if they had professional modders looking at it giving feedback, they would have understood that they had to make design changes to avoid this criticism.
Yep. They would have known. Yeah, you have to acknowledge us. I'm sorry to say it, but you have to. The modders have pushed the trends that you see today in design. It's because of us in the garage cutting up things and modifying things that cases look the way they do today and offer the features that they do today. And the more manufacturers that acknowledge that, and they acknowledge it publicly on their social media, there's more respect for those manufacturers. We're loud, whiny little bitches, and we want to be heard, and we're going to keep chipping away until we're heard. Now, there was something else I was going to ask you. Okay. In regards to the feedback, you and Peter Brands, who's also in the chat, you guys were invited over by Cooler Master to give them input on what would later become the Master Case series. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was a fun experience. They invited several modders from around the world to come in and be part of a workshop. And Peter's like, I'll try to keep it nice and clean, and won't tell all of our secrets of eating beetle nuts back in the filthy streets of Taipei. Anyway, so what's really interesting is that instead of just coming in and having us look at, almost finished products and like stamping, they actually had us come in and use our creative juices. So, we took some really rough designs, and they gave us cardboard and different hand tools to come out and fabricate things to come up with what we thought would really add to it. And they actually took that, especially things like the hypermodular concept, and ran with it. And you haven't seen the best of what came out of that yet. It hasn't been released yet, but you're going to see some. Well, hopefully, if it makes it to light of day, you're going to see some really cool products.
You're exactly right. I'm waiting for that. And well, the chassis that inspired the Master Case, what was that called again? It was just the Master Case, or there was some name for it?
Oh, Master Concept.
Master Concept, right. And you don't have to, if you're under NDA, you don't have to reveal anymore. But from what I know, there was possibly the plan of making it a retail chassis. And one thing that we've brought up on the Modzu staff is, Cooler Master, where the hell is our Cosmos 3?
Yeah. So, and that was one of the things that Peter, and I think Richard Keir all pushed heavily, because there's a couple different rough designs that we springboarded off of, and the one that you haven't seen yet, I can't give too much information because of NDA, but to me it looks like something that you guys created, and I'm not going to say anything more than that, but it just looks like something that has Bill written all over it.
Oh, really?
And if you ever see it, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Oh, will I get angry?
Oh no, I think you're gonna have a smile on your face.
All right, cool.
But the lines on it, to me, it goes with the Cosmos, and we made sure we told them that, look, we understand that you want to come up, with some cases and different price ranges and everything, but the look and feel, and when people think of Cooler Master, they think of the Cosmos series. And so you have to have that look and feel and that continuity somewhere in your product line to continue the Cosmos, because that is what you're known for.
It's your flagship.
If you don't come out with a follow-up to that, then you're just losing a huge advantage over your competitors.
Yeah, and I think in their defense, at least from my correspondence and experience of working with Cooler Master on and off, is I think that internally they've gone through some changes, and they're maybe still addressing those changes, and because I think that Cooler Master's really lost their footing in the market with design, while companies like Fantex, Fractal Design, and all these other little satellite companies are starting to take over that territory that Cooler Master had owned.
Well, because there's different niches when you talk about cases. So you have low, mid, and high end, right? And so in the high end niche that I see the Cosmos occupying, I think companies like Inwin have really pushed into that.
Yeah.
Where the Cosmos, I think, would really fit in that niche if you look at the price range and everything more than with some of the other companies. Not that they're not beautiful cases and works of art in and of themselves. But if you look at that, I think that they could have really pushed this new product. Hopefully, they will in that market segment.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's one comment in here. I think since I'm talking to Modzu, someone said, "Hey, Rich, what about Krukel?"
Yeah, the Krukel story. You want to tell? Yeah, tell us about the Krukel incident.
Yeah, that was CES 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so keep in mind that Bill and I have always had this kind of quasi-antagonistic relationship. Never really hated each other or anything like that, but we always kind of never were really best buddies or anything like that. I think we probably should have been a long time ago. I wish we met in person because I think you'd actually like me. But so we've always had this kind of back and forth type thing a little bit, And so with the Modzu guys, I've always had nothing but mad respect. If you go and look, things they've done, especially with the rigid tubing and all that stuff, with the, all the testing and stuff that they've done, I think they've done a great service. And besides being awesome modders, they've really done a big public service in that regard. So here I am with the build in the Cooler Master booth. It was a carbon case. I just did a quick late window for it last minute, the night before I flew out to CES. My eyes aren't all that good, so that's my excuse. But I misspelled 3 words in a row for a sponsor. So it was Crucial, Terabyte, and SSD. I managed to screw up all those, and I laser cut it. Did not bother to look, packed my stuff, got on the plane, installed the window, took the case up to the Cooler Master booth, which was in the same hotel I was in. I go drop it off, and then I'm coming back, and out of the elevator, who do I run into? The monkeys. Oh,
yeah, you scooted out of that hotel room pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah, that was, and so actually I was down in my hotel room. I made a post on Facebook, and then all the replies came back when they noticed. I went back up to take the window off. I had the window in my hand, I was coming out, and that's when I came across the Modsy guys.
Yeah,
so caught me red-handed.
Yep, in the window. Would you like stuff in the window into your jacket or something on the way, just like straight for the elevator?
At his back.
Yeah, I was hightailing it, but they were so nice. I mean, awesome guys. We took a picture, and
this is okay from my perspective. And I was watching this live updates via social media when this happened. What happened was Rich had finished the build and he'd taken a picture of it, and Toby had caught that he had misspelled Krukel. And he put a response like, "Who's Krukel?" And then, Rich, you were doing something, and then when you read his reply, you're like, oh no, I can't believe I misspelled that. Meanwhile, that is when the guys from the Modzu were going to that same suite, and then you hightailed it back there. You grab it just as you're leaving the suite. You run into them. And we had already known about the mistake you had made because we were watching via Facebook the live updates, and those guys knew too. So it was pretty funny.
That was awesome.
And you copped to it, man, and that was totally respectable. It's like,
it had, I mean, when you do something, it's a learning experience. If you own your mistakes, I think you're a better example for it.
Exactly. And you didn't try to hide it. It wasn't like, delete the post, no one else see it. You're like, I made a mistake, guys. I was under a lot of stress and pressure to get these done. I'm under a deadline. You had to fly. It's understandable. It happens.
No, it's not understandable. I'm a college instructor too, so it's not understandable.
I can only imagine though, having been in that situation where you're working under a deadline and you've got many hours into it, that you just kind of space it. But but that was great. Good experience. Do you want
to be honest with you, I mean, that experience is the reason you and I are probably talking right now.
Very true. Yeah, very true. I think.
I mean, I think it kind of opened the door, allowed me to actually meet them in person.
Yeah.
And over the years, kind of work to, even though I did prod you a little bit there and there, but they kind of helped too.
Yeah, they came back and you said you were really cool, and I think the word was you were sincere and you're nice, and when those guys told me that, I was like, all right, man, it's just because you have a perception of somebody online through different things, and so that could be. I think nonetheless, if whether that happened or not, that we would probably have you on the Hangout just because, again, of the legacy you've left on this hobby and this community is undeniable. Whether you're in the Darth Beavis bandwagon or not on it, you can't deny that. And Droog and I want to get people that have made some type of impression on this hobby into this Hangout so it's documented. One thing that Droog has taught me about is documenting stuff so people can discover it later when they discover this hobby, and then they can find out who are the people that were involved with pushing the boundaries in it.
Oh, appreciate that. Oh no.
Oh,
just a little piece of fan art that we happened to trip over.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Me on this one is you have this little.
What's the story on this?
Yeah, so this was a GeForce Garage video I did on bending copper tubing, and so when I bend copper tubing, I like to use the coil tubing It's a little bit softer, easier to bend. And so I got the straightener from the UK. And when you straighten it out, the motion, I won't say what it's like, but I kind of gave that look to the camera at the same time, and it was history.
This is how you do it, boys.
That's right. Got to keep that modding wrist strong.
Right. That brings up something too in regards to NVIDIA and GeForce. And what happened with NVIDIA is they changed their online community. They had this. You were a member of it, and I was a member of it too for a while, and you were very active on it. Was NVIDIA's own community?
Yes.
Rich, what was the name of it again?
I can't remember, but they got hacked and it went down for a while. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, and NVIDIA's got a newer community now, and I kind of dropped into it a week ago to kind of casually look around, and unfortunately, it's just kind of lost its activity. And
that's just like anything else we're talking about with extreme systems. So when you take 4 months off online, that's like a lifetime.
Yeah,
it'll take forever to build it back up. You add that with the change of social media and I know the staffing changes internally as well. Most people don't know, and the company focusing on different products and everything. So there's a whole reason behind it. But I think the main takeaway is if you have a community, don't let it die even for a day. You have to keep it going. You have to keep that consistency, because today people have so many options. So you have to keep people engaged.
That sounds familiar given our recent topics.
Yeah, Mosquito is right now applauding all of us and Soros. Yeah, it's true. And Mosquito's been our, when we're away from the forum, the Mod Zoo, he's always been the Overwatch in there.
Yeah, I mean, I got to come back to your guys' forum. I haven't been active on there. I've been active on any forums at all.
Hey, Hey man, it's tough. It's tough, and like Alex was saying earlier, and how when you get your work spread out over all these different forums and you're updating it, don't forget to engage with the people that while you've been gone have asked questions or even just made a nice comment about, hey, this is really awesome. Acknowledge them. Let them know that you're reading it and you appreciate them following you.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it's just like, if you have a blog or anything, you need to, or a YouTube channel, you need to keep content, you need to engage with the community and not just be a static, drop and pop and get out of Dodge. You need to keep active. People want a two-way communication.
Mm-hmm. All right, so in closing, should we have Rich share the Admiral Dasmode radiator thing? It looks like he's cool with that because, and then also the guy that was at Pfizer is left a long time ago. Pfizer, F-E-S-E-R, doesn't exist anymore, but they were a player with the liquid cooling market. Let's ask Alex, your experience or impressions of Pfizer.
Oh, they don't like me.
Why? Or they didn't like you?
Right, sorry, they didn't like me. I think probably something to do with my almost endless crusade against most of the premixed coolants years ago for being largely snake oil. Something involving a fan and a bottle of pink lemonade, I think.
Was that a demonstration video or something?
Yeah. It got pretty popular in Extreme Systems briefly. Someone, I think it was one of their UK resellers, posted a video of dumping the Pfizer One coolant into a cup that had a running fan in it. I'm like, okay, so what?
Mini water.
You can do that with almost anything, and so I did it with pink lemonade.
Okay.
And that ended up spiraling into like getting some Fluid XP and getting distilled water and getting a cheap motherboard and running 3D Mark and just dumping shit all over the board while 3D Mark is running, and then doing the same thing again with the special coolants.
Good stuff.
I was, at that point, I was just poking the beehive, and I ended up getting several brief emails from the people over at Fezzer, mostly filled with profanity.
Yeah, the Fester guys were colorful characters. They're Germans. And I remember back at that Extreme Systems party, I had my wife there with me, and I think they were wanting to have a foursome. I mean, they got so close. Went on met them again later. But yeah, this interesting. So the backstory of this is that at this Extreme Systems party, everyone in the water cooling industry who was somebody, I mean, all the competitors, EK was there, Danger Dan, I don't think, was Gabe there? I can't remember. No,
Gabe made an appearance, as I recall.
They had a handful of performance PCs.
Yeah, Gabe was there. I just remembered. I sent a photo to the Skype group chat a few days ago because I was digging through stuff. It was a photo of Jeremy from Danger Dan, myself, Eddie, Gabe, and was it Dan?
No, Dan wasn't there that one.
No? Okay, that must have been one of the other ones.
Maybe Dennis. Yeah, so what happens, this is when the Admiral Radiator, the modular radiator, was being developed. And Mark from Frozen CPU put, I won't say how much because I know as well, but a good amount of money investing. And the word is that Daz, they said, absconded with it or had it. And so there's a whole big drama about where it was, and it never really fully went to market. And it was really anticipated. Just a total mess. And I just know Mark from Frozen CPU used to call me 1 or 2 in the morning, just going off about people in the industry and stuff like that. So yeah, heard some colorful things going on about that.
I can totally validate that because he used to do the same thing to me.
Yeah.
His time
was
between
exactly what I'm talking about.
11 p.m. and 2 in the morning was when Mark was active.
Yeah. And so that was interesting because I think that's around the time that I had a falling out with, I can't remember if it was Extreme Systems or with RR Tech, but yeah, there was a big drama with that. I can't remember, but it was not pretty. So kind of made a beeline out of the place early that night instead of staying and witnessing more of the drama, surprisingly enough. But it was a mess. But yeah, so the Admiral Radiator.
Yeah, it was supposed to be the world's first modular radiator for PC water cooling.
What could go wrong?
It's still a concept that could be done, but I mean, do we really need it though? No.
So I think Peter is saying that Martin from Fester is now with Thermaltake.
Yeah, I heard that too. He just started this year. Yeah.
Because I know that he worked with Peter on a desk 2 CESs ago. I can't remember what company it was at. Bright Green desk build. He had
Red Harbinger desk?
No, it was Red Harbinger. No, it was after that. That was another big mess. But we'll talk about that another day.
Another half hour to cover that.
Yeah, I think I'm still technically a shareholder of Red Harbinger. I have the dopamine V2 here ready to build out.
Yeah, that the Bitcoin mining craze that was supposed to appeal to. Hey man, it's been a great hangout. Well, is there anything you want to where can people follow you or reach out to you, Rich?
We'll come out on nerdyninjas.com, Darth Beavis 1 on Twitter. I'll be doing a rigid tubing demo at CPU Land in Nebraska this weekend.
Oh, cool. The very first event for them.
Yeah, should be fun. I worked with the CNC to donate a 3D printer I'll be giving away for the mod contest. I decided that a modder would be the best person to get it, and then I'll ask that they use it for their next mod. I'll push them out to your site for the work log then.
Awesome. What about if they want to follow you on Twitter or your YouTube channel?
Darth Beavis 1 on Twitter, and just go out to nerdyninjas.com and you can find our YouTube channel. And we'll be doing a new video series probably 2 weeks from now.
Oh, awesome. Okay, cool. Alex, Droog, anything else before we close?
Actually, I do have a quick kind of flash question before we end this. So do you think that we should start talking about case mods differently? So we touched about this very briefly early on in the Hangout about the difference between essentially a custom-built case where you're using CNC tools to build a case or build something versus modifying an existing case. So kind of a yes or no, do you think we should actually start differentiating between the two in the way we talk about them and the way we compete cases and compete, mods and stuff against each other?
Well, can I start off really quick on this? If you're going to call it case smithing, you'd better get out there. You better smell that stuff down. And you're going to stand there and you're going to beat that shit into shape. Because if you're going to say you're case smithing, you are going to be doing it from raw scratch, okay? That's my biggest beef about anyone who's trying to do the new titles for what we do as a hobby. I'll free the floor now.
Okay, and I've heard this. I mean, this has been like the perennial argument, case fab versus case mod. But there's also, I mean, people are forgetting that there's a whole nother genre of custom building, so to speak. And I'll give you an example. Years ago, I went to or had a build at in San Francisco, and a gal had an awesome build, but it was built inside of a beaver. So it wasn't a custom fabrication. She didn't build it from scratch. She didn't modify a case. She built a computer into a beaver.
Whose beaver?
Well, I helped her. I had my hand in the beaver at the show because so we're trying to fix it. I'm not sure whose beaver it was. A big brown beaver. No, her name was not Winona. She went around in the air.
Okay, so we have taxomodding then.
Wasn't that found object? Isn't that what that was supposed to be? Found object modding?
Yeah, we could go good places with this. Well, I've done some mannequin builds too, so.
Right.
What have I done?
Right. So what Alex is proposing here, and you can post it in the YouTube comments if you think of it while you're watching this video, a suggestion to differentiate between a case mod, which is you take a factory case, take your Dremel or your Jigsaw and you cut it up and modify it, versus somebody that actually creates a case fabricated, whether it's CNC, water jet cut, or a 3D printer. You're looking for two different terms, case mod versus like case crafting or something.
Well, not necessarily two different terms, but two different ways we look at it. And well, actually, to complicate things further, there are also case mods where people start with a case, basically strip everything away but the bare frame, and then fabricate something entirely different around it. At that point, well, what is it?
That's still a case mod to me because there's still that factory original element to it. No different from a 32 Ford street rod where you got a chassis and then you've got a custom fiberglass body for it and a different engine and different wheels and all that stuff. Yeah. What do you think, Rich?
Actually, Insolvent Gnome is coming up with a good thing that kind of points to this. Last Cooler Master contest, I was a judge of that. And the big Centipede mod.
Yeah.
When we have received the final round to judge, they already had it pre-categorized. So we didn't have the option to choose which category it went in, scratch or a case mod. This one, if I remember correctly, it fit into the scratch build, even though he used pieces of a case to fabricate it. It didn't have any look or feel of the original case whatsoever. And so when we judged it, we just kind of went from where they gave it to us versus being able to recategorize it. But that is a really good case study in which one is it.
And it definitely something that has to be agreed on and used by all competitions in the future, right? So we don't upset anybody, because currently it's either scratch build or case mod. So sounds like we should have a third category added.
This goes back to the companies consulting. So when they're doing case mod competitions, especially if they're spending a lot of money on it, they should be consulting with pro modders, MMPC Tech on, okay, how do we do this to make sure it really fits and we have everything covered within the community, and then they can cover their interest as well. But to make sure that you don't have these problems that can actually destroy a mod contest versus having it build community and being productive.
Yeah, good point. Thank you, Alex. All right, like we said, and post in the comments your suggestions for that after you watch the video. So, Droog, you can go ahead and close us out.
Yeah, we didn't quite break the record that we set the other night, but we're getting, an hour and 21 minutes this time. So, as I say, usually at the end of the casts here, you can find us at themodzu.com. That's where we have our reviews, our forums, a lot of good builds, a lot of good lessons, how-tos. Speaking of which, I'd actually, more people need to come in and start producing some more how-tos for us. It's been a little while since I've seen some action. Some new painting techniques would be good. Insolent Gnome, showing us how you did the welding to get those legs standing up on Giganti. That would be fantastic. But let's see, start there at the forums. Go on over to Facebook. It's the Modzu. Twitter is the Modzu. Plus, it's the Modzu. It's we're not that original. And like I always say, though, you've all got something that's sitting around your house. It's just really annoying to you. You cut it up, paint it up, make it new, make it different, make it yours. Just get out there and mod something, would you guys? We'll see you next week.